global biotech ecosystem. GapSummit is the world's only intergenerational leadership summit in biotechnology and healthcare. And the aim of the summit really is to connect current leaders with carefully selected leaders of the next generation. We bring those two groups of leaders together to discuss pressing challenges that the world bioeconomy is facing, and to inspire them to catalyze innovation to solve these challenges. Now, in particular about GapSummit 2022, which is our 7th GapSummit, it will hopefully be hosted as an in-person event at the University of Cambridge, UK, and it will take place from September 5th to 7th, so for 3 days. Our 3-day event will include keynote presentations, panel discussions, and interactive interviews, which tackle the idea of achieving and maintaining sustainability in a rapidly expanding and developing biotech and healthcare sectors. Some of our confirmed speakers for your interest include Dr. Herman Hauser, who is co-founder and general partner in Amadeus Capital Partners, Dr. Mike Snowden, Senior Vice President at AstraZeneca, Dr. Austin Che, who is co-founder at Ginkgo Bioworks, Sir Harpal Kumar, who is President of Grail Europe, and Bill Anderson, CEO of Roche Pharmaceuticals, as well as many more. We are hoping to bring over 50 speakers to GapSummit 2022. The GapSummit also includes workshop sessions, which are interactive and are provided by our amazing industry partners. And the workshop sessions are aimed at developing professional skills. Furthermore, we also have the Voices of Tomorrow entrepreneurial competition, which challenges you to foster an entrepreneurial mindset and gives you also the real skills to do so. And finally, every year since 2014, when the first GapSummit was held, the key participants at GapSummit are our 100 delegates, or our 100 leaders of tomorrow. We select the leaders of tomorrow competitively from around the world. And because of GBR, we are committed to removing barriers to inclusive participation. We cover accommodation and food for all selected 100 leaders of tomorrow who come to attend GapSummit 2022. For more details about GBR and GapSummit 2022 and information about how to apply, please visit our website. And a very important note is that our applications close on April 22nd, so make sure to send yours in before the deadline. Thank you.
Thanks, Adelina, for this information on GapSummit 2022. With that, let's get right started with a panel discussion, and I would like to introduce all the participants. Today's chair of the panel discussion is Abdur, who was an LLT in 2020, and in this year part of the ambassador program, where he spearheaded amongst other things today's event. After doing undergrads at Nottingham University, he's currently reading a master in cancer at University College London. Originally, he's from Sri Lanka and has a strong background in biotechnology. Hi, Abdur. Nelli is one of our panelists today and participated in GapSummit 2018 as an undergraduate, which she did at Cambridge University. After her master's in drug discovery and development from Imperial College London, Nelli has ventured into various fields like consulting, entrepreneurship, and currently she's working as a strategist at Fertility, a top women's health startup, for which she was awarded or recognized as one of the top 500 personalities in Femtech by Femtech Analytics. Hi, Nelli. A second panelist is Ujang, who participated in GapSummit 2020. He's originally from Indonesia and currently a final year PhD researcher at the University of Oxford. There he's studying cardiac diseases using stem cell derived engineered heart tissue for disease modeling, but also for drug development. And prior to pursuing his PhD, he was trained as a pharmacist in Indonesia and worked in one of the multinational pharmaceutical companies there. Moreover, he gathered experience in industry and project consulting in multiple private companies and extracurricular activities. Linda is our third panelist, and she participated in yet another version of GapSummit in 2019. She did her master and PhD in microbiology at the University of Sao Paulo, whereafter she was a visiting researcher at Washington University in St. Louis. She was awarded the Matilda Hidalgo Award for Outstanding Scientific Career, and is from the Ecuadorian Congress in 2019. And moreover, she's ambassador of the SOS Children's Villages in Ecuador. Currently, she's leading the Biomedical Research Center at UTE University in Quito. Thanks for being here today. I'm really looking forward to your insights on GapSummit and to the tips you can give. Abdur, the stage is yours.
Thanks for the introduction, Monica. And now that we do have introductions in order, yeah, first and foremost, thank you everyone for joining in. And before we really jump into it, how are we doing? Nelly, Ujang, and Linda. I know we have people connecting from different parts of the world as well as different parts of England. So really quick, how are we keeping here?
Yeah, great. It's been a fantastic sunny day in London, and I'm really excited to be here. Thank you so much for the invitation, and thank you for everyone tuning in.
Lovely.
Hey everyone, this is a lovely sunny day in the middle of the world, Quito, and I'm beyond excited to share with all of you.
Brilliant.
Hi everyone, same with Nelly here in Oxford. Has been really sunny as well lately, so been enjoying the sun.
Brilliant, amazing. So likewise here in London as well. So let's jump straight away into it. So let's start with you, Nelly. What was your first impression of the GapSummit? Like when you first perhaps even maybe stumbled upon it, or perhaps even searched and found it. What was your first impression of the GapSummit, Nelly?
So I found out about GapSummit through a friend. And I think word of mouth when it comes to these events is very powerful. He tried to apply to GapSummit 2 years in a row. And when he pitched GapSummit to me, I thought, what an incredible opportunity. I'll give it a go. There's no way I'm going to even get invited to an interview. And I submitted my application and forgot about it. And then, as you all know now, I actually got through, and it was definitely a highlight of the year for me. And especially since COVID, I think the highlight of the last few years.
Thanks for that, Nelly. And Linda or Ujang want to chip in there? I'm sure that each of us have our own GapSummit experience in terms of what that first impression was. Do you all want to chip in there?
Yeah,
I can jump.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead,
okay.
Linda.
Thank you. So to be honest, I thought that I was not to be chosen because I remember writing my application next to my husband. He is also a researcher. And I was thinking about, he has way more chances than me to be chosen because he is, I don't know, like more smarter, he has more experience. He's even better, like selling himself. So I was not so sure about even applying to the competition. And I remember seeing the previous videos of the previous lot, receiving their talks with pioneers in biotech. And that made me think that this is a huge opportunity and that could be decisive in my career. And although at the same time that was intimidating to me, it also motivated me to try it because I thought that the mere experience of applying was already worth it, especially in countries like in Ecuador and developing countries. Being able to be in contact with current leaders in biotech can be life-changing, and that was certain for me.
Well said there, Linda. How about you, John?
I can quickly add to that. So unlike Nelly, who found it through word of mouth, so I found GapSummit through social media, Facebook and LinkedIn, because there's so many posts about GapSummit, and I was so curious what it was about. And then I asked my friend, and he applied to it, and he didn't get it. And I thought he was really good, and he didn't get it. And I was like, I was so sort of like put me down. I was like, I think I'm not going to get it as well. And I tried to apply because I had a very high passions in biotech and try sort of, tailor my application in order to get it. And yeah, I was lucky that I got a position. But yeah, it was an amazing opportunity.
Yeah, amazing. I mean, this insight itself, it's so inspiring. And I would say it's a big shout out to everyone out there who's thinking about applying. Don't doubt yourself. Look at yourself at the mirror and just apply. You never know. It's just that the GapSummit may be needing just you. So go for it and apply. So thanks a lot for that. And I think we are off to a good start right away. On that note, Ujang, let me go to you here. Tell us what happened to you after being selected as leader of tomorrow. What was that process after you were informed that, yes, you're going to be attending the Gap Summit and you're now a leader of tomorrow? Walk us through that process.
Yeah, so before that, I was actually applying GapSummit when I was away. So it was like a couple hours before the closure. So I was thinking I'm not gonna get this anyway. But I think it was like a week after I got an interview, and then yeah, surprisingly I got the position. And then for me, I think it's a bit different with the other batch because during 2020, because it was COVID, so everything was online. Initially, I was so excited because it was going to be in Cambridge. I was like, oh, good, because, you know, like has been in Oxford for 2 years. Now it's time to go to Cambridge and experience how Cambridge was like. And I was so excited until it was announced that everything would be online. So it was quite different because I talked to previous LOTs, and they always talk about how, you know, like this in-person event would be like. And for me, it was quite unexpected because everything was online. But it turns out that it was because at that time it was like starting everything to be online with Zoom, you know, Gather Town. So it was a bit difficult initially, but we had to adapt to it. But in my experience, it was almost the same. Like I didn't really feel like, you know, different. Of course, there's a difference between in person and online, but it's almost, you know, no different. But like to answer your questions, what are the steps? So we sort of like have to submit the proposals for Voice of Tomorrow competitions, and, you know, many other opportunities through email. So if I put an email Gap Summit, there will be a lot of notifications about the programs itself. So yeah, not only one, but like more than one programs.
All right, thanks a lot for that, Ujang. And then you slightly alluded to the Voices of Tomorrow competition as well. On that note, Linda, let me go to you. Walk us through what the Voices of Tomorrow competition is, and what did you learn from it through that entire process? I'm sure this brings a lot of fun memories as well, and I believe this is also the time where some of the we meet so many people across from different parts of the world. So yeah, I'm curious to hear your thoughts on this.
Okay, so the Voices of Tomorrow competition, it's a platform, a competition to tackle real world challenges within the biotech industry. So when I found out what my group mates were, I was extremely intimidated again, because they had very different backgrounds from me, and it was the very first multidisciplinary group I was involved in. So the challenges ranges from the language, because we had different accents, and it was also difficult to understand and to agree with the time zones, because we had different meetings. There was always someone at bed because it was a crazy time zone because I remember my groupmate was from someone in India and someone in UK and me in Ecuador. So the meetings was extremely difficult to have, and also choosing the topic, it wasn't easy because I'm more from the microbiology field, and they were from like the company and biotech and marketing, and the other was mathematicians. So it was extremely challenging, but also it was extremely rewarding because I learned a lot, not only from the experience, but from my colleagues. And I'm glad that I'm able to call them my friends now.
Amazing stuff there, Linda. Let me bounce that over to you here, Nelly. Like, I believe being part of this, the entire group formation experience, and being put in a multidisciplinary team with amazing people such as yourselves, whom you perhaps would have never met before. What were your main takeaways from that entire Voices of Tomorrow competition, Nelly?
I found it really, really inspiring, and it's at times challenging, but I think we all struggle through it together, and it really helped us kind of bond as a group and then stay in touch beyond Gap Summit. I think the most interesting part was, for me, was my first experience working with kind of in a small group across different time zones, same as Linda alluded. We always had somebody who was kind of in the middle of dinner while talking about the future of biotech and trying to bring forward a revolutionary idea. And what was quite interesting upfront when we were just figuring out what was the topic that we'll try to focus on as a group, because we all had to pitch some ideas that we were really passionate about in our applications. We spent quite a while just advocating for why what was someone's personal idea was the one to go with. So just a note of caution to future applicants, and I'm sure that everyone is listening today will get a fair chance of becoming an LOT. Make sure that you listen to your teammates, and it's something that you will, like a lesson you will benefit from beyond GapSummit for sure.
Lovely, well said there, Nelli. And on that note, let me go back to you again, Ujang. So certainly the Voices of Tomorrow competition really helps to build the entrepreneurial skills and networking skills and whatnot of all the leaders of tomorrow. But on the same note, at the GapSummit itself, and before that, leading up to the GapSummit, there's a lot of training and support provided during that process. Could you allude to the type of support and training that you receive as a group member, as well as a leader of tomorrow during the Voices of Tomorrow competitions and before it, of course?
Yeah, so despite the challenges that Linda and Nelli have described before, the time zone and, language barriers, etc., but GapSummit has been so supported by giving us the mentor during the process. So during the Voice of Tomorrow competitions, because we had to develop a business idea based on the gap that we were chosen, and we are assigned one mentor that suitable for us. And this mentor is an expert in the field, be it on academia, working with like hardcore biotech field, but also from industry, like a business development person. So at that time, I had Hannah as our mentor, and she has been amazing by replying to our questions through emails. So, but also through sort of like a Zoom meeting at that time. Although, like I mentioned before, it was quite difficult with the time zone, but the mentor has always had time to answer the questions that we had. Not only that, so the committee of GapSummits also has been so supportive. They answer the questions even so quickly. Like I emailed them and then they replied right away with a very sharp answers as well. So you're not going to be left behind with your team. There will be their mentors and also the committees that will support you along the way.
Amazing. So I think that really gives a flavor to all aspiring LOTs of what to really expect during this journey.
Mm-hmm.
So coming back to you, Nelli, at the GapSummit itself, now, yes, we do have the Voices of Tomorrow competition, but also all leaders of tomorrow would be rubbing shoulders with some of the greatest minds that walk on this earth. So tell us a little bit about the type of people that you would meet, the type of speakers, the type of panelists the leaders of tomorrow could expect to meet at the GapSummit.
I think what I didn't expect and what struck me and surprised me when I actually got to the conference itself was the diversity of different ages, of different experiences, professions within biotech that were represented there, from both LOTs and the speakers and panelists, and the opportunity to have a chat with any of them over a cup of coffee was absolutely incredible and unforgettable. I almost felt like I didn't want to go from the coffee room back to the panels because I was having such an engaging debate with somebody who was in C-suite of a pharmaceutical company. And I realized that this is the last minute, like the time is running out. I want to keep talking to them because I might not have another opportunity to get in touch with them, maybe until I actually get to that stage in my career. And to me, that was kind of the most amazing value add of that experience. And I think Ujang and Linda will agree with me that this is something that is definitely very unique to GapSummit compared to other conferences that they may have attended?
Lovely. And let me also bounce that question over to you, Linda. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I'm gonna talk about the speakers because for me it was a privilege to personally meet Dr. Andrela Mokopadway. She is a senior scientist in the biological system and engineering division in Berkeley. I remember like I was just listening to her because I really admire her, and after during the coffee break, I was talking to her about my project in the competition, and then she just suddenly invited me to be part of her laboratory as a visiting researcher. And for me, it was a huge surprise. And unfortunately, the pandemic didn't allow us to make that visit. But if there's something that I want to highlight is that the networking in the competition is first class. You should, for center, take advantage of, because even your colleagues and the speakers and the people in the organization, they all are like, this is an amazing opportunity to make friends for life, to make connections for future collaboration if you are in the academia. And even some of them for me now are like my friends. I can talk to them if I have any issue and in any trouble, I have a doubt regarding biotech in general. And also it's been so nice to see some of them been growing along these years with some of the ideas have been now being in real companies. So for me, this is a huge and valuable experience at every single personal level.
And just to quickly add to that, I think
Sure, Nelli.
networking is definitely something that is incredible during the summit, but it carries on after you've completed the summit, just because you become a part of the alumni network. And it's something that I've really benefited from in trying to navigate my career in the early stages, because I could just go through the list of past attendees of GapSummits on the Facebook group, and if I see somebody who is in my dream job right now, would just reach out, and we already had the shared experiences to kick off the conversation. And I think that's kind of an additional benefit that some people may not realize until they've actually completed the GapSummit.
Amazing stuff. Then I think we slightly came to the networking aspect of it, which we'll be alluding to as well in one of the subsequent questions. But before we jump into networking, because I believe networking is one of the core aspects of the GapSummit, which could be a separate panel discussion by itself, to be honest. But before we jump into that, let me perhaps direct this question to Ujang here. Was there a particular speaker or a panel in particular that caught your attention, that still reminds you of the essence of GapSummit and perhaps even inspired you to this day?
Yeah, funny that you asked that question, because I don't think I can answer that questions to specific speaker, because I have a lot of, memories with the speakers itself, because they're all amazing. When I looked at the email again, I just realized how, caliber they are, like the speakers themselves, like the CEOs, and then Nobel Prize winner and experts in industries. But one person that really put me in memory was Sir Gregory Winter, which was the Nobel Prize winner from Cambridge. And at that time, he was so passionate on explaining his work on biotech and how he finally commercialized his research in a lab into sort of like a marketable product. And I thought it was pretty amazing and inspiring, because at that time I was a second-year PhD student and I was a hardcore biotech. I didn't really have a lot of knowledge on the business side of it. And then when I looked at him, that he was successful on, managing these two aspects between academia on the hardcore biotech and then winning a Nobel Prize, but also how to become an entrepreneur and a CEO of his own company. So I was pretty inspired at that time, and I looked at a lot of other people who were successful in combining these two aspects between academia and also entrepreneurship. And it also led me to other opportunities. Like I joined, sort of like a biohackathon competitions, or even taking an online MBA because I was so curious on how to combine these two aspects. So yeah, Sir Gregory Winter was one of the speakers who inspired me a lot.
Thanks a lot for that, Ujang. And on that note, let's slightly take a segue back to networking, which they alluded to a bit earlier. So it's like during the Gap Summit, we essentially build a massive community. So let me perhaps direct this question to you, Linda. What are your thoughts on the people you've met, the entire GBR community at large, the alumni network as well, based on your experience as a leader of tomorrow, as well as the GBR alumni?
So in this experience, you will make friends for life, connections for future collaborations or projects. Even on a personal level, I found support in difficult times during the pandemic. It is also inspiring to see how your peers have grown over the years. How many of those ideas that sound like crazy ideas now have crystallized in different countries in the world, and how some of them have actually been now leaders in their communities, especially during the pandemic. So we have like a small chat in WhatsApp where we exchange opportunities and training courses, discussions with some of the colleagues. I was in 2019. So, and also it happens that I met some of them in different congress and spaces. So we always recognize ourselves as the leaders of tomorrow, class 2019. So at the end of the day, we all recognize that we were extremely privileged of having this experience. And in fact, that we need to be leaders in our communities, in each space, and we had to transfer the knowledge, including telling to young women, in my case, the experience, and they try to pass some confidence to them. So for me, having these colleagues gave me so many lessons from the academic side to the entrepreneurial side. For me, it's now that I see all these maybe future applicants being here in this meeting, is extremely, I don't know how to put in words, extremely exciting, because I'm thinking about what is coming for them if they are accepted at slot in this year. So please apply, don't doubt of yourself, because this is a change life experience.
Amazing. And on that same note, I think while Linda, you were talking about it, I think we all, it reminded us all of, each of our Gap Summit experience and how different leaders of tomorrow, Gap Summit alumni, have touched each of our lives at different points of it. So thanks a lot for that really concise like the description there, Linda. And on that note, perhaps Nelly, you touched on the networking aspect of it earlier. Perhaps really briefly, how did that network really help you in your post-Gap Summit experience?
Yeah, and I think I have a very good example that is telling to how useful the network is. One of the LOTs in 2018, I wasn't on my team, and I think we had one brief chat during the event itself, because unfortunately you won't be able to speak to every person, as painful as it is and as much as you want to. She started working in consulting, in strategy, helping pharmaceutical companies. And I was really curious to hear about her experience and the company where she was working. And we met up for breakfast after I reached out, and I really, really loved the feedback that she gave me, and like her experiences to date. And this led me to applying and getting the job. So that was my first job out of university. And I think I attributed it to Gap Summit, and that's how I heard about the company in the first place.
Lovely. I think, Nelly, on that note, I think it really built the bridge to what we are coming to next in terms of what the Gap Summit, how the Gap Summit helps these leaders of tomorrow. And on that note, Ujang, let me go to you. How has being a leader of tomorrow helped you in your career or even prepared you for your future career? I think it really sets a stage based on what Nelli just described so lovely.
No, yeah, I would agree with Nelly, but for me personally, I can't really see the direct impact yet in terms of job because I haven't graduated from my PhD now. But um, the Leader of Tomorrow or Gap Summit event has helped me to nourish my CV. So every time I apply to the next event or internship, they always ask about the project that I did during the Voice of Tomorrow competition. And they were very interested in what I did, basically. So, you know, I might not have seen the direct impact because I haven't got a job after PhD yet, but it has helped me, you know, to guide me to other opportunities like internships and competitions and some other events as well.
Certainly. And on that same note, let me go back to you a bit there, Ujang, in terms of how do you feel that experience has helped you prepare for your future career?
Oh, definitely really helped me because like I said before, I was a hardcore biotech person. So in my mind, it was always about, you know, like experiments or, you know, like science itself, but I didn't really think about the business side of it. But I feel like now it has shaped me towards leaning towards more like industry sort of career and instead of focusing only on academic side of it. So now I have more options and also I have more, you know, sort of like channels I want to go after my PhD. So it has inspired me to sort of like other field as well outside of, you know, scientific field or like the experimental field itself, like consulting, like Nelly mentions, or going to public policy, for example, or being an entrepreneur as well. So it has given me a lot of options on the career. And now I have set my mind to what I want to do after my PhD.
That's lovely there, Ujang. And I think when you were talking about Professor Greg as well earlier, I remember like when we were having that conversation, everyone was around him, and that it just reminded me of that moment as well. And then perhaps coming back to you, Linda, you slightly alluded to how the Gap Summit helped you as well earlier. So let me direct that same question to you over here. How did the Gap Summit, the entire experience, really help you in bringing you to where you are today, and of course, importantly, preparing you to your like reaching new heights as we speak?
So for me, I don't know why, but it was a huge deal here in Ecuador, the fact that I was chosen one of the leaders of tomorrow. So I started to receiving a lot of attention from the media, and I'm a scientist. You know, I love my lab coat. I feel safe with my microorganism doing experiments. And suddenly I was receiving calls from like the media asking why is this competition, how I'm gonna like, why I'm being considered leader in biotech field. So I was extremely overwhelmed at the beginning. And then I started to talk about my work, and I tried to take advantage of the space in the media to also talk about the limitation of doing science research and doing scientific research in Ecuador. And then also I use this platform to mention the gender inequity that exists in science in the country. So this experience fills you with a broad range of personal tools, professional skills, connections that help me to expand my research. Today, I have the opportunity to be the director of a research center. And I also had to mention that I got a job. I'm pretty sure that I got a job in the government during the pandemic because they kept me, I mean, they knew me because of this media coverage I received during the 2018. So suddenly into 2020, I started working to help fighting the pandemic because I was working in diagnostic COVID-19. So for me, it was a preparation for the future that is now. Now I'm leading my team, trying to use the skills that I learned to be a leader. It is weird because I don't consider myself as a leader, but now I'm pretty aware that being a leader is not like you did like the most amazing scientific discovery, or you have this multi-million biotech company. Is more something about your attitude and how you can make smallest impact in your community. That's what being a leader is about.
Well said there, Linda. Well said there. And also, while being mindful of time, let us slightly take a segue here. Perhaps coming back to you, Nelli. What were your main highlights? What were your main takeaways from the entire Voices of Tomorrow competition, as well as importantly the Gap Summit? And I feel this, in fact, like I was just going through some of the audience questions as well. This was something that that popped up a few times as well. So I'm really excited to know what were your main takeaways in this case.
This is a very exciting but very challenging question, just because I feel like it was such a multifaceted experience that taught me so much. I think overall, and something we keep coming back to is believing in myself. And I'm sure all of us, when it's like the more ambitious you are, the more you suffer from imposter syndrome. And I think giving it a go and choosing that as a principle for any activity and any decision in your life is very important. It's something that GapSummit taught me for sure. And I think that really penetrated my kind of whole career afterwards, just because I was I realized that a lot of doors remain closed until you actually knock on them. And excuse my metaphors, but I think you all can imagine what scenarios I'm talking about. You had your own handful experiences with those. But I think the experience of my peers who won GapSummit and now have a very successful food tech company called Better Nature, and have products on shelves across the UK. And I always feel a lot like very proud of them, and also very inspired by the fact that I was there in the beginning of their journey when they just pitched their idea for the first time in front of all their peers and exceptional leaders in the industry at GapSummit. I think that was the highlight of the event, and it's something that reminds me that no matter how much you struggle, if you're very passionate about something, if you're very passionate about an idea, you should just keep going and try to persevere through all the challenges.
Amazing stuff there, Nelli. Someone write that down. Someone write that down. Well, really well put there. And let me direct that same question to you, Ujang. What was your highlight? What was your main takeaway from this amazing experience that we all share?
Yeah, it was well said by Nelli, that it's such an amazing opportunity. But for me personally, GapSummit has brought a lot of confidence in me, of like, because it's a worldwide event, and I always had doubt in myself, like I don't think I could do this, competing with a lot of people from all over the world, 7 billion people in the world that, but not all of them are applying, but still like they're all from sort of like a high, like good backgrounds, and have a lot of experience. And I always had doubts in myself that I couldn't do it. But GapSummit, because I was selected, and it has put me in confidence that, there's nothing that I cannot do if I want to try, and I'm passionate about it. Just need, like a spark on it, and like put your passion into it, and then write your application, and then go there. And then if you are good at it and you have a passion in it, you're going to be accepted. So yeah, GapSummit has helped me to, guide me through that confidence.
Amazing stuff there, Ujang. And I think, well, a good final message there as well, like to all applicants out there, really don't disqualify yourself, put yourself out there. And I think you highlighted that very well. Put yourself out there, because if you really don't apply, you really won't have a chance, will you, at the end of the day? So really put yourself out there. So on that note, I'm conscious of time here. And on that note, And in terms of the closing remarks, how would you advise potential aspiring leaders of tomorrow and applicants who are keen to know more about the GAP Summit and GBR in general? What are your closing remarks to them, to everyone who are connected here, as well as who may be watching this later on? Let's start with you, Linda, perhaps.
Oh, okay. So as I mentioned before, my husband and me, we both applied at the same time in 2019. We were both interviewed, and I must admit that I didn't understand at that time why I was chosen over him. And I was a little bit sad for him. But now I think that my greatest limitations, or what I thought were my greatest limitation, like being a woman, young, in a small country, that was what made me stand out among all the applicants. So perhaps my greatest learning from this stage was learning about the entrepreneurial environment in Silicon Valley. It was for me open-minded the experience, because I didn't know anything about seed capital and regulatory issues in biotech companies. So for all of you that are in this conversation today, just be confident, believe in what is your truly and lovely passion in science, in biotech, in different fields. Don't doubt of yourself. Sometimes when you think that you have a limitation, other people see that as a strength in you. For me, in this experience, it was a life-changing, as I mentioned before, because it really was. I also have this imposter syndrome. I don't know why. At that time, I didn't know why, but now I'm sure that I have also so many different skills as a young woman and scientist in an underdeveloped country that made me stand out. So speak by yourself, be confident, and remember, why are you studying and fighting for what you really are passionate about?
Amazing stuff there, Linda. Thank you for that. And let me bounce that same question over to you, Nelly. What are your closing remarks to all aspiring leaders of tomorrow, like across the world, really? How would you what advice would you give them?
Yeah, I think the biggest change in my life that GapSummit brought about was really rediscovering how I can make an impact in biotech for myself, because I went into the event thinking that, oh my God, I'm going to meet Nobel Prize laureates. I'm going to be so excited to speak to such distinguished academics. And of course, there are going to be people from industry and consulting and VC and all of those amazing commercial roles. And I kind of disregarded that. But then at the event, I realized that actually, this is what I'm most passionate about. And creating the business plan in the Voice of Tomorrow competition helped a lot. And now I find myself, having been in consulting for a bit, now working in a startup in a commercial role again. This is truly my passion. And this is where I can generate the most impact and self-fulfillment, rather than going to research, which was originally the plan. So I think, be excited to discover something new about yourself and about the industry that you're so passionate about.
Lovely, Danielle. I think I love the way you put things so nicely. Amazing. So let's go back to Ujang here. The same question here. What are your closing remarks to all aspiring leaders of tomorrow out there?
Yeah, so this might sound cliche, but I'm gonna say it anyway. So things that you think it's not good, sometimes it's something that other people thinks it's good. So during the interview process, I asked the interviewer, why did they choose me over, like other 600 applicants? And they said there was something that I wrote in the application form that caught their interest, which was a small project that I did in Indonesia prior to my PhD, and it was related to biotech. Although it wasn't like a hardcore biotech, it was creating a rice synthetic in Indonesia to help to reduce diabetes in Indonesia, and it wasn't like a big, startup that I did. It was just like a small project that I did with my friends, but because it was the idea itself, it was good, like to help to reduce the diabetes in Indonesia through reducing the glycemic index in rice, and that caught attentions of the committee apparently. So think of something that you think it's related, to biotech, but it doesn't have to be like something CRISPR-Cas9 or something like genetic engineering. It can be something, related to biotech, but it's useful, and you can be leader on it. Surely you're gonna be stand out among other applicants.
Amazing. Thanks a lot for that, Ujang. And on that note, I think most of the questions that we wanted to cover are completed. And on that note, let's slightly take a quick segue and focus our attention on some questions that have come in from the audience, as well as some questions that they have filled out in the sign-up forms as well. So one question that really caught my interest was, I think this is quite a good question, in fact. To rephrase it slightly, what would you do differently if you were to relive that GapSummit experience? I think this is a really tricky one. Let's go with you, Nelly. If you knew that you were to experience what you experienced, what would you do differently to make the most of the summit? And this question is coming from Billy Mabi. I'm not sure about the pronunciation, but yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much for the question. I think I actually got an opportunity to relive GapSummit experience somewhat, just because I was one of the alums that got to attend 2020, which was online. So for me, it was a blessing that it was online. And I think in 2018, being an undergrad, kind of one of the few youngest people attending as LOTs, I was very insecure. I felt like I didn't belong there. And it took me a lot of courage to start conversations with people I really want to talk to. So something that I definitely didn't do is overthink when it came to 2020. So as soon as I figured out that I have something to contribute to the discussion, I just jumped in, and I'm sure that helped me a lot to build bridges with other people and to expand my network, and also to learn a lot. So just I think this is a message that you keep hearing today. Don't doubt yourself, go for it. So I feel like I'm a broken record, but it's so important. It's also so prevalent in science.
Well said there. And then does anyone else want to take a go at that, or shall we go jump onto the next one?
So maybe one of my biggest regrets was, at that time, I remember being during the conference, and I wasn't able to talk to some of the speakers because I was extremely shy. I was like, okay, no, my English is broken. I'm not that smart. So I was so afraid to talk with some of the speakers, and even some of the colleagues, some of the lots. So sometimes I was just during the coffee break thinking about, okay, what I'm gonna say, but I wasn't able to say anything at all. I'm really regret that, because now looking back, you need to take advantage of that opportunities. You need to speak. I mean, you are a leader of tomorrow. You are already in there. That's, for some reason, the organization choosing over the 100 of applicants. So when you are there, you need to take advantage in every single minute with the speakers, with your mentor, with your colleagues. Talk everybody and try to make connections, because as you hear, some of those connections maybe are gonna give you a job in the future, or they are gonna be your collaborators during your research. So yeah, I regret about that, but that also gave me a different set of tools that now I'm applying in my research center.
Well said there, Linda. And I think the point that you mentioned, like, we all have to take the opportunity of a lifetime in the lifetime of the opportunity. So yeah, I think that speaks volumes just right there. I'm also conscious of time, but I also do understand that most of these questions that came up in the sign up forms we have already touched on. But there's one question that has come up that goes along the lines of I feel how can someone coming from a different background, how would they sort of fit in the Gap Summit? But I feel this person has a interest, say, in biotechnology, but perhaps is coming from a different background. What are your thoughts on that? Maybe let's go back to Nelli here.
Yeah, no, I actually have a good example to give. I think that the people who have different set of skills and different experiences to bring to the table would be extremely valuable at Gap Summit, especially in the context of the Voice of Tomorrow competition, because what you really want in the startup creation process is a multidisciplinary team. And I think something that doesn't happen as often in Gap Summit is having people with a lot of kind of computing skills, technical skills. For example, we landed an idea to utilize blockchain to encrypt medical records, and at the time it wasn't very well spread. Now it's a thing. It lost its uniqueness, but we really struggled to show feasibility behind the idea because we didn't have the technical expertise on board. So no techie people, everyone was doing something in health tech. Somebody on my team was a CEO of a medical supplies company. I think I would just encourage you further, and just finding your edge and what you bring to the table is really important. You showcase that in your application, showcase your passion for biotech and how you would be keen to apply those skills that you already have from a different field in the context of biotech. And I think that's not gonna be an issue.
Thank you for that, Nelli. Does anyone else want to allude to that?
Yeah, I can add to that. I think it's perfectly okay if your background is not in biotech, as long as you have a passion. I think Gap Summit is for everybody who is interested in biotech. And nowadays, because of COVID pandemic, everyone is aware about, how important biotech field is, and people are more informed about the biotech itself. So as long as you are interested with biotech and how can you, outcast your contribution, and how can you contribute towards, for example, in Voice of Tomorrow with your current background, it's perfectly fine. And I think it's better for you to have sort of like a distinct background, but can somehow align into the biotech field. That is going to be good.
Lovely there, Ujang. And on that note, let's just perhaps take one more question before we wrap up. So one of the questions that has come up is, what do you see as the major challenges in biotechnology in the near future? And how do you feel like the leaders of tomorrow who we see coming up today who could potentially address them? So I think it's quite an open question, and it's quite open to all the panelists here as well. Let's start with Ujang here. What do you see as the main challenges in biotech as you speak? It's quite a big one.
This is a huge question. This is a huge question, but I think this is what the Gap Summit is trying to, solve anyway. So yeah, like back again to your, previous questions about what did we actually do after we're selected. So after we're selected, we're actually given, I think it was 8 sort of like big, gaps that the leader of tomorrow can address. And there are so many of them, ranging from, how CRISPR-Cas9 can be used for therapeutic, therapeutic field, but also to sort of like what will sustainability in 2050, and how can we replace all the food with sort of like a synthetic food that is more sustainable. And to answer to your questions, what is the biggest challenge in biotech? That's a pretty good question. I would say it's the sustainability itself now. So a good example is people are now trying to replace the food, especially the animal-derived food, with synthetically made in the lab. And the challenge is in the scaling up itself. So at the moment, because people have a lot of interest, and even there's so many companies all over the world replacing the food with the synthetic meat in the lab, but the scaling up process is still a big challenge and it's still expensive. And I think that is one out of all the biggest challenge that we are facing, is the scaling up of the product. And I think that's where the scientists, but also the entrepreneur can work together in collaborations to realize this and like scaling up this product so then all people can have an impact.
Yeah, thank you for that, Ujang. And I think this is also an opportunity to also say how some of these biggest problems in biotech is what will be really discussed and tackled at the Gap Summit. So if these are the type of questions that you're thinking about, the Gap Summit is the place that you need to be. So on that note, I like to first and foremost thank everyone for coming. And Nelli, Ujang, Linda, thank you so much for your time and really sharing your insight with all aspiring leaders of tomorrow and sharing your experience with them. So thank you so much for your time, Linda, Nelli, and Ujang. And of course, a big thank you to all the team as well in working in the background who really helped to put this event together. And on that note, yeah, I suppose it's a wrap. Thank you, everyone. Take care and stay safe.
All right. Well, this was incredibly insightful. Thanks so much, Abdur, for chairing today's panel and for your initiative. Also, thanks a lot to our panel today, Nelli, Ujang, and Linda. It was really impressive to see what you have been up to since Gap Summit and which insights you could share with us today. And of course, thanks to the participants who are joining today. I hope some of you got motivated to apply for Gap Summit 2022 or know someone from your network who would really benefit from this opportunity. And for those of you who joined a little bit later, we will make this event available online, so you can just check out what we talked about before. You can find this on our social media channels, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter. And with that, thanks again, and maybe we're seeing us, or hopefully we're seeing us on Gap Summit. Have a nice day.